This story was shared by a night shift security guard who worked in a small office building, and his job was usually very quiet, just sitting in a room and watching security cameras all night. One night around 2:30 a.m., he noticed something strange on one of the monitors. One of the office lights on the third floor was on, which didn't make any sense because he clearly remembered turning everything off earlier. Thinking he might have made a mistake, he grabbed his flashlight and went upstairs to check. When the elevator doors opened, the hallway was completely silent, and the light at the end was slightly flickering. As he slowly walked toward the office, he started hearing a faint tapping sound coming from inside the room. When he finally opened the door, the room was empty. There was no one there, but the computer screen was turned on. What made it worse was that the screen was showing the live security camera feed. And on that screen, he saw himself standing inside that same room. But something wasn't right. The version of him on the screen wasn't moving at all. He stood there, confused, staring at the monitor, and then suddenly, the figure on the screen slowly turned its head and looked directly into the camera. That was enough for him. He immediately ran out of the building and never came back to that job again. The Thing in the Attic. A man once rented an Airbnb in a quiet area for a short trip. The place looked normal, maybe a little old, but nothing unusual. When he arrived, the host left a simple message telling him not to open the attic, saying it was locked for a reason. He didn't think much of it at first and went on with his night. Later that night, around 3 a.m., he suddenly woke up to a strange sound. It sounded like footsteps coming from above him. At first, he thought it might be his imagination, but the sound continued, slow and heavy, as if someone was walking back and forth directly above his room. He sat up in bed and looked toward the ceiling, where the attic door was located. That's when he noticed something that made his heart drop. The attic door was slightly open. As he stared at it, the footsteps suddenly stopped, and everything went completely silent. Then, very slowly, the attic door moved just a little more, as if something inside was pushing it open. He couldn't see clearly, but he felt like something was watching him from the darkness. Without wasting another second, he ran out of the house and called the police. When the police arrived and searched the place, they didn't find anyone inside the attic. However, they did find something disturbing. There were food wrappers, water bottles, and even a small mattress, which meant someone had been secretly living up there the entire time. The 3 a.m. call. A girl once received a phone call from her best friend late at night, and something about her voice immediately felt wrong. She sounded scared, like something wasn't right. Her friend told her that someone had been knocking on her door at exactly 3 a.m. At first she ignored it, but when it kept happening, she decided to check through the peephole. The hallway was completely empty. There was no one there. That's when things got even worse. While still on the call, her friend suddenly went quiet. After a few seconds, she whispered that she could hear something inside her apartment. Not outside, but inside. Then, in a very low and shaky voice, she said she could hear someone speaking. The voice didn't sound normal. It sounded wrong, almost like it didn't belong to a real person. Then she said something that sent chills down her spine. She whispered, "It's telling me not to look behind me." Right after that, the call suddenly ended. She tried calling her back again and again, but there was no response. The next morning, her friend was found unconscious in her apartment. She survived, but she refused to talk about what happened that night. The only thing she ever said later was that whatever was in that room knew she was alone.